There's a feeling you get sometimes, usually at 3 a.m. or in the middle of a crowded room or when you're driving alone on a highway. A feeling that something inside you died a long time ago, and you've been walking around pretending to be alive ever since. You look in the mirror and recognize your face, but you don't recognize your eyes. They're different now, emptier, like someone came in the night and stole something essential, and you woke up lighter but hollow. And the worst part? You can't even remember what was taken. Right now, in this moment, you're going to see it. The thing you lost. The thing that changed everything. The thing you'll never get back. And I'm not talking about a person or a job or a relationship, though it might feel like that on the surface. I'm talking about something deeper. Something that, once gone, changes the entire architecture of who you are. Carl Jung called these soul losses. The moments when a piece of your psyche dies, and you're forced to reorganize your entire existence around that absence. The window you're about to choose isn't just a window. It's a portal to your deepest grief. The grief you've never named. The grief you've never mourned. The grief that's been running your life in the shadows while you pretend everything is fine. And here's the terrifying truth. Until you see what you've lost, until you face it, until you acknowledge that it's gone forever, you'll keep searching for it in all the wrong places. In people who can't give it back. In achievements that can't restore it. In distractions that can't fill the void. Before we begin, I need you to understand what's about to happen. This isn't a fun personality test. This is confrontation. This is the moment when you stop running from the truth that's been chasing you. And that truth is this. You are not the person you were before the loss. You can't go back. You can't retrieve what's gone. And every day you spend trying to return to who you were before is a day you're not living who you actually are now. The window will show you this. And it will hurt. But it will also free you. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying what he called the confrontation with the unconscious. The moment when you finally see what you've been avoiding, what you've been denying, what you've been grieving without knowing you're grieving. And he discovered that most people never have this confrontation. They live their entire lives with a ghost pain, an ache for something they can't name, a longing for something they can't define. And they fill their days with noise, with distraction, with busyness, anything to avoid the silence where the truth lives. But you're here, which means some part of you is ready. Some part of you knows it's time to stop running, to stop pretending, to look through the window and see what's really there. Not what you wish was there, not what used to be there, but what's actually gone, forever. And in that seeing, in that brutal honesty, something shifts. Not healing, not yet, but recognition. And recognition is a first step toward integration, toward learning to live as the person you are now, instead of the ghost of who you used to be. In just a moment, I'm going to show you 3 windows. The clear window, the foggy window, and the barred window. 3 different kinds of looking out, 3 different kinds of seeing, 3 different kinds of loss. And the one that makes your chest tighten, the one that makes you want to click away, the one that creates that sick feeling in your stomach. That's your window. That's your truth. That's what you've been avoiding. Don't think about this logically. Don't analyze. Don't try to figure out which window sounds best or makes you look good. Your conscious mind will lie to protect you, but your body knows. Your unconscious knows. The grief you've been carrying knows. So when you see these windows, pay attention to the feeling, not the thought. Pay attention to the contraction, not the explanation. Your soul will recognize it's lost the moment it sees it reflected. Look at these 3 windows now. Really look at them. The clear window, painfully transparent, showing you everything you can no longer reach. The foggy window, obscure and uncertain, showing you the path you can no longer see. The barred window, imprisoned and contained, showing you the freedom you can no longer access. Which one stops your breath? Which one makes you want to look away? Which one feels like staring at your own ghost? That's your answer. That's your truth. That's your loss. Pause this video if you need to. Take your time. Because once you choose, once you see, you can't unsee. And that's the point. That's the entire point. You've been living in unconscious grief long enough. It's time to make it conscious. It's time to see what you lost. It's time to stop searching for something that no longer exists. Have you chosen? Can you feel which window is yours? Good. Now let's look through it together. Now let's see what you've been mourning without knowing you're mourning. If you chose a clear window, what you've lost is your innocence. And I don't mean innocence like naivety or childishness. I mean innocence like the ability to see the world as fundamentally safe, good, trustworthy. You've lost a belief that things work out, that people are basically kind, that the universe is on your side, that if you're good, good things will happen to you. That belief is gone, and it's never coming back. And you look through this clear window every single day, seeing the world exactly as it is, with perfect clarity, and it breaks your heart over and over again. Here's who you really are and what really happened to you. Something shattered your worldview. Maybe it was a betrayal so profound it rewrote your understanding of human nature. Maybe it was a tragedy so senseless it destroyed your faith in meaning. Maybe it was an injustice so cruel it killed your belief in fairness. Maybe it was a moment when you realized that being good, trying hard, doing everything right means absolutely nothing. The world doesn't care. The universe doesn't reward virtue. Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to terrible people, and there's no logic, no justice, no divine plan. And in that moment, something in you died, not metaphorically, actually died. The part of you that believed in happy endings. The part that trusted that everything happens for a reason. The part that thought love conquers all and truth prevails and good defeats evil. That part is gone, and you can see through the clear window now. You can see reality without the filter of hope, without the distortion of faith, without the protective blur of optimism, and it's unbearable. The clear window shows you everything. The cruelty people are capable of, the randomness of suffering, the indifference of existence, the fact that you can do everything right and still lose, that you can love someone completely and they can still leave, that you can build something beautiful and it can still be destroyed, that safety is an illusion, that control is a fantasy, that the ground beneath your feet is made of nothing solid, and you have to live with this knowledge every single day, seeing clearly, knowing truly, unable to unknow. Jung would call this the death of the pure eternus, the eternal child, the part of you that believed in magic, in protection, in cosmic justice, in the fairy tale where the hero wins and love saves the day and everything works out in the end. That child is dead, and you're what's left, an adult who sees too clearly, who knows too much, who can't go back to the comfortable lies that make life bearable for everyone else. You're awake in a world of sleepers, and the loneliness of that is crushing. Here's what this looks like in your actual life. You can't watch movies with happy endings without feeling angry. You can't listen to people talk about their dreams without feeling cynical. You can't participate in the collective delusion that hard work pays off and everything happens for a reason and the good guys win. Because you know better. You've seen behind the curtain. You've looked through the clear window, and what you saw can't be unseen. People think you're negative, pessimistic, jaded, but you're not. You're just honest. You're just seeing what's actually there instead of what people wish was there. And the crazy thing is, you give anything to go back, to believe again, to see the world through the foggy window of hope instead of the clear window of truth. But you can't. That innocence, once lost, is gone forever. You can't unlearn what you've learned. You can't unfeel what you felt. You can't unsee what you've seen. The shadow side of the clear window is misanthropy, bitterness, the hardening that happens when you see too clearly for too long. You start to hate people for their innocence, for their stupid hope, for their naive belief that things will work out. You become cruel in your clarity, sharp in your honesty. You use your clear seeing as a weapon, as a way to prove you're smarter, more aware, more realistic than everyone else. But really, you're just in pain. You're just grieving the loss of your own hope, and you're making everyone else pay for it. Here's what you need to understand, and this is crucial. This is a turning point. You can't get your innocence back. That's true. That's permanent. But you can choose what you do with your clear seeing. You can let it make you bitter and closed and cynical. or you can let it make you compassionate. Because here's what the clear window actually shows you if you look long enough. Everyone is suffering. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is pretending to be okay while falling apart inside. And that knowledge, that clear seeing of universal suffering, can either make you cruel or kind. The evolved clear window becomes wisdom, not the false wisdom of platitudes and positivity, but real wisdom, the wisdom that says, yes, the world is harsh. Yes, life is unfair. Yes, we all die and most of it means nothing. And we love anyway. We try anyway. We build anyway. We create beauty knowing it will be destroyed. We form connections knowing they will end. We hope knowing we might be disappointed. Not because we're naive, but because that's what it means to be courageously alive. Your practical path forward is this. First, you need to grieve. Actually grieve the innocence you lost. Stop pretending you're fine with being awake. Stop acting like seeing clearly is some kind of superpower. It's not. It's a wound. And you need to mourn it. Cry for the version of you who believed the world was good, who trusted that things would work out, who had faith that meaning was possible. That version of you is dead. Have a funeral. Say goodbye. Second, you need to find others who see clearly, who've lost their innocence too, who live on the other side of the shattering, because they exist, and they're not all bitter. Some of them have turned their clear seeing into compassion, into art, into service, into a fierce, honest love that doesn't require the world to be fair. Find those people. They're your tribe. They speak your language. They won't tell you to think positive. They'll sit with you in the truth. Third, you need to create meaning intentionally. Because here's what the clear window doesn't show you. Even though the universe doesn't provide meaning, you can create it. You can decide what matters. You can choose what's worth caring about. You can build something beautiful, knowing it's temporary. You can love someone knowing it will hurt. You can fight for justice knowing you might lose. Not because you're guaranteed a good outcome, but because you decided it matters. That's not innocence. That's courage. Fourth, you need to practice what Jung called holding the tension of opposites. Yes, the world is cruel. And yes, the world is beautiful. Yes, people are capable of terrible things. And yes, people are capable of extraordinary kindness. Yes, everything ends. And yes, this moment right now is real and precious. You have to hold both truths. You can't go back to seeing only the positive, but you can't stay stuck seeing only the negative. You have to learn to see clearly and still choose love. That's the work. The gift of the clear window, the gift of lost innocence, is that you can't be lied to anymore. You can't be manipulated by false hope. You can't be fooled by pretty promises. You see reality. And that's actually a superpower if you use it right. You can make better choices because you're not deluded. You can love more authentically because you're not performing. You can live more honestly because you're not pretending. But only if you don't let the clarity turn to bitterness. Your relationships will change completely once you've lost innocence. You can't do shallow anymore. You can't do fake. You can't do the social game where everyone pretends everything is fine. You need real. You need depth. You need people who can handle truth. And most people can't. Most people are still looking through foggy windows, protecting themselves from clarity. And that's okay. They're not your people anymore. Your people are the ones who've been shattered too, who see clearly too, who love anyway. Here's what you're actually mourning. The world you thought you lived in. The safe world. The fair world. The world where goodness is rewarded and evil is punished and love is enough and trying matters and meaning exists. That world never existed, but you believed it did. And losing that belief feels like losing the ground beneath your feet, like falling forever. And you're falling. But here's the secret. Everyone is. You're just aware of it. That's the only difference. Your mantra with clear window. I see the world as it is, not as I wish it were. And I choose to love it anyway. Not because it deserves my love, but because I refuse to let clarity become cruelty. I have lost my innocence, but I have not lost my humanity. I see clearly and I care deeply, and those two things can coexist. Say this when the bitterness comes, when the cynicism threatens, when you're tempted to close your heart because you've seen too much. The clear window shows reality, but you decide what you do with that reality. If you chose the foggy window, what you've lost is your sense of direction, your clarity, your knowing. You used to know who you were, where you were going, what you wanted, what mattered. You had a path, a plan, a vision of your future that felt real and solid and true. And then something happened. Not one big thing necessarily, maybe 1,000 small things. And slowly, gradually, the fog rolled in. And now when you look out the window, when you try to see your path forward, you see nothing. Just gray, just uncertainty, just the terrifying blankness of not knowing who you are anymore or where you're going or what any of it means. Here's who you really are and what really happened. You lost yourself, not dramatically, not suddenly, but slowly, one compromise at a time, one should at a time, one choice that wasn't really your choice. You became what other people needed you to be. You followed the path that looked right from the outside. You built the life that checked all the boxes. And somewhere in that process, the real you disappeared. The you who knew things, who wanted things, who had clear desires and clear boundaries and clear direction. That you is gone. And the person looking through this foggy window doesn't know how to get back. The foggy window represents what Jung called living in the persona. You become the mask, the role, the performance of who you're supposed to be. And you've been doing it so long, so thoroughly, so convincingly, that you don't remember what's underneath anymore. You look in the mirror and you recognize the face, but not the person. You go through your days and you perform your life, but you're not actually living it. You're watching someone who looks like you make choices that feel like someone else's choices. And you can't remember when this happened, when you stopped being real and started being a copy of yourself. Here's what this looks like practically. You can't make decisions anymore. Every choice feels equally meaningless because you don't know what you actually want. Should you stay in this job or leave? You have no idea. Should you stay in this relationship or go? You can't tell. Should you move to a new city or stay where you are? Both options feel like nothing because you've lost your internal compass. You've lost a part of you that knows, that feels, that wants. And without that, every decision is just a guess. Every path is just another foggy road, leading nowhere. People ask you what you want and you freeze, because you genuinely don't know. You've spent so long asking what other people want, what's practical, what's responsible, what's expected, that you completely lost touch with your own desires. And the terrifying thing is, you're not even sure you have any desires anymore. Maybe they died. Maybe they were never real. Maybe you're just empty, just a collection of roles and responsibilities with no actual self at the center. The shadow side of the foggy window is paralysis. You stop moving entirely because you can't see where you're going. You stop trying because you don't know what you're trying for. You freeze, and you call it being careful or thinking things through or not want to make a mistake. But really, you're just lost. And instead of admitting you're lost, instead of asking for help, you pretend you're intentionally pausing, intentionally reflecting, when really, you're just stuck in fog, so thick you can't see your own hand in front of your face. Jung would say you're disconnected from yourself with a capital S, from the authentic core of who you are, and that disconnection creates this fog, this uncertainty, this lack of direction. Because without connection to your true self, there is no direction. There's just reaction, just response to what others want, just adaptation to what's expected. You're not living your life. You're living a life, and it could be anyone's life. There's nothing in it that's specifically, uniquely, undeniably you. Here's what caused this. Maybe it was a loss of identity. A role you built yourself around disappeared. You were a parent, and the kids left. You were married, and the marriage ended. You had a career, and it fell apart. And when that role disappeared, you discovered there was nothing underneath. Just fog, just emptiness, just the terrifying realization that you are not the roles you play. And without those roles, you don't know who you are. Or maybe it was a slow erosion. Years of saying yes when you meant no. years of doing what you should instead of what you wanted, years of living someone else's idea of a good life. And each compromise, each betrayal of yourself, it added a layer of fog until one day you woke up and couldn't see anything anymore, couldn't feel anything anymore, couldn't remember what you actually wanted before the world told you what to want. Your practical path forward with a foggy window is this. First, you need to stop moving. Stop trying to figure out the right direction. Stop asking everyone else for answers. Stop reading books about finding your purpose. Stop taking courses on discovering your passion. Just stop. Sit in the fog. Let yourself be lost. Because you can't find yourself while you're running. You can't see clearly while you're moving. You need to be still. Uncomfortably, terrifyingly still. And let the fog be fog. Second, you need to reconnect with your body. Because your body knows things your mind has forgotten. Your body remembers what you actually like, what you actually want, what actually feels good versus what you've been told should feel good. So start small. Start noticing. What foods do you actually enjoy versus what you eat because they're healthy? What clothes make you feel like yourself versus what you wear because they're appropriate? What activities make time disappear versus what you do because you're supposed to? Your body is a compass. Trust it. Third, you need to say no. A lot. To everything that feels like fog. To every obligation that doesn't light something up in you. To every should that comes from outside. To every expectation that isn't yours. No is the fog cutter. No is how you start to see what's actually yours versus what you've been carrying for others. Every no reveals a yes. Every boundary reveals desire. Every limit reveals what actually matters. Fourth, you need to experiment. You can't think your way back to clarity. You have to live your way back. Try things. Small things. Big things. Scary things. Notice what creates even a flicker of aliveness. Even a moment of, oh, this feels like me. That's your trail home. That's your path back to yourself. It won't be clear. It won't be linear. But it'll be yours. And yours is all that matters. The gift of the foggy window, the gift of lost direction, is that it forces you to start over, to rebuild, to discover who you actually are instead of who you thought you were supposed to be. Most people live their entire lives following paths that were never theirs, and they die without ever knowing who they actually were. You get a second chance. The fog is devastating, but it's also an invitation to get lost on purpose, to wander, to discover, to find your true direction instead of following someone else's map. Your relationships will transform when you stop knowing who you are, because you'll stop performing. You'll stop being the version of you that everyone expects. And some people will hate that. They'll want the old you back, the predictable you, the you they could count on to be consistent. But that you is gone, and good riddance. That you is killing you. The new you, the foggy you, the uncertain you, is actually more real, more honest, more present. And the people who can handle that uncertainty, who can love you without needing you to be fixed or clear or figured out, those are your people. Here's what you're actually mourning. The version of yourself that knew things, that had answers, that felt certain, that walked through life with confidence and clarity and direction. That version felt powerful. And losing that feels like losing your identity. But here's the secret. That version was often performing certainty, faking clarity, following someone else's direction and calling it your own. The fog didn't take your real direction. It revealed that you never had it. And that's actually freedom. That's actually the beginning of real direction. Direction that's yours. Your mantra with the foggy window. I am lost and that's okay. I don't know who I am and that's honest. I can't see my path. And that means I'm finally free to find my real path instead of following someone else's. The fog is temporary. My true direction is underneath, and I will find it by being still, listening deeply, and trusting what feels real instead of what looks right. Say this when the panic comes, when you feel desperate for answers, when you want someone to just tell you who you are and what to do. The fog is uncomfortable, but it's where the real finding happens. If you chose the barred window, what you've lost is your freedom. Not physical freedom necessarily, though maybe that too, but psychological freedom, soul freedom, the freedom to choose, to move, to change, to leave, to become. You look out through bars you can see, but can't name. And on the other side is a life you could have lived, a person you could have been, a path you could have taken. And you can see it. So clearly, so painfully. It's right there, but you can't reach it. You can't access it because something is holding you captive. And the worst part, the bars aren't external. They're internal. You built this cage, and you're the only one who can unlock it. But you can't remember where you put the key. Here's who you really are and what really happened. You made choices that closed doors. You made commitments that became chains. You built a life that looked like success, but feels like a prison. And every day, you wake up and perform that life. And every night, you go to sleep knowing you're not living. You're serving a sentence. A sentence for crimes you can't name. Maybe the crime of playing it safe. Maybe the crime of choosing security over authenticity. Maybe the crime of loving people who needed you small. Maybe the crime of building your identity around what you could lose instead of who you could become. The barred window represents what Jung called the unlived life, the life you didn't live, the person you didn't become, the choices you didn't make. And here's the devastating truth. You're aware of it. You can see it. You can feel it pressing against you every single day. The ghost of who you could have been, the shadow of the life you sacrificed. You can see it through the bars. And it torments you because you're close enough to see it, but too trapped to reach it. Here's what this looks like in real life. You have a job that pays well, but kills your soul. You can't leave because of the mortgage, the kid's college fund, the retirement account. You're financially trapped. Or you're in a relationship that's not abusive, but it's not alive either. You can't leave because of the history, the family, the fear of being alone. You're emotionally trapped. Or you're living in a city you hate because your whole life is there. Your aging parents, your established career, your social circle. You're geographically trapped. Or you're living an identity you've outgrown because everyone knows you as this person. And changing would mean losing everyone and everything. You're socially trapped. The bars are real. The cage is real. But here's what makes it unbearable. You built it, not on purpose, not consciously, but you made the choices that led here. And now you're living with the compound interest of those choices. Every decision that prioritized security over freedom, every choice that prioritized others' needs over your own truth, every moment you said yes to what was practical and no to what was possible, all of it adding up, all of it creating this prison you can't escape. People look at your life from the outside and think you have it all together. Good job, nice house, stable relationship, responsible life. They don't see the bars. They don't see you looking out at the life you're not living. They don't see the slow death that happens when you trade your freedom for security, when you trade your wild soul for a domesticated life, when you trade becoming for belonging. And you can't even complain about it, because by every external measure, you're successful. You're fine. You're living the dream, except it's not your dream. It's someone else's dream that you're serving time in. The shadow side of the barred window is victimhood. You tell yourself you had no choice. You tell yourself the bars are locked from the outside. You tell yourself you're trapped by circumstances, by other people, by the economy, by your responsibilities. And some of that is true, but not all of it. Some of those bars, maybe most of them, you could remove if you were willing to pay the price, if you were willing to risk, if you were willing to lose. But you're not, so you stay, and you resent, and you blame, and you become bitter, trapped not by the bars, but by your unwillingness to break them. Jung would say you're living in fear of the self, the true self, the authentic self that wants things that aren't practical, that needs things that aren't safe, that demands freedom even when freedom is costly. You've spent your whole life building security, building stability, building a life that looks good and feels safe. And in the process, you've caged a part of you that wants to be wild, free, unpredictable, alive. And now that caged part is screaming. And you can hear it, but you can't let it out. Because letting it out would mean destroying everything you've built. Here's what caused this. Maybe it was a choice you made too young, got married too early, had kids before you were ready, chose a career path because it was sensible, and now, decades later, you're still living with the consequences of a choice you made when you were someone else. Or maybe it was a series of compromises, each one small, each one reasonable, but collectively, they added up to a cage made of good intentions and responsible choices and careful planning. And now you're trapped in a life that makes sense to everyone but feels like death to you. Your practical path forward with the barred window is brutal. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is the hardest one. Because unlike the clear window where you lost something to the world, or the foggy window where you lost something in confusion, you lost your freedom to your own choices. And getting it back requires taking responsibility, not blaming yourself, but taking responsibility, acknowledging that these bars, while real, were installed by you and can be removed by you, if you're willing. First, you need to name the bars. What exactly is keeping you trapped? Write it down. Every single bar. I can't leave my job because... I can't end this relationship because... I can't move because... I can't change because... Name them all, and then ask yourself, are these bars made of iron or are they made of fear? Are you actually trapped or are you afraid of what freedom would cost? Because there's a huge difference. Iron bars are immovable. Fear bars are uncomfortable to push against, but they will move. Second, you need to calculate the cost. Both costs. The cost of staying and the cost of leaving. Right now, you're only calculating one side. You're thinking about what it would cost to break free. The money, the relationships, the security, the identity. And yes, those costs are real. But you're not calculating what it's costing you to stay. The slow death of your soul. The growing resentment. The years ticking by while you watch your unlived life through bars. The person you'll never become if you stay here. Calculate both costs. Then decide. Third, you need to start testing the bars. You might be more free than you think. Start small. Start pushing against one bar. Just one. See if it moves. Maybe you can't quit your job entirely, but can you negotiate for more autonomy? Maybe you can't leave your relationship, but can you renegotiate the terms? Maybe you can't move cities, but can you create more freedom within the city you're in? Test. Push. See what's actually immovable versus what just feels immovable. Fourth, and this is the hardest one, you need to accept that freedom has a price. Always. And that price might be everything you've built. It might be stability, security, approval, belonging, your current identity. Some or all of those things might have to die for you to be free. And you have to decide if freedom is worth it. And here's the thing, there's no right answer. Sometimes staying is the braver choice. Sometimes a cage is temporary, and breaking out would cause more harm than waiting. But you have to make that choice consciously. Not out of fear, not out of habit. Consciously, the gift of the barred window, the gift of lost freedom, is that it clarifies what actually matters. When you're trapped, when you're looking out at the life you're not living, you see very clearly what you value, what you're willing to sacrifice for, what you're not willing to live without. Most people never get that clarity. They wander through life, never knowing what they'd be willing to lose everything for. You know, because you're living the loss right now. You're living without the thing that matters most. And that knowledge is power. If you use it, your relationships will become unbearable once you realize you've lost your freedom. Because relationships are often the bars. Not because the people are bad, but because you've organized your entire identity around being what they need. And changing that, reclaiming your freedom, might mean losing them. And that's the choice. That's the brutal, heartbreaking choice. Stay in the cage and keep the people. Or break out and risk being alone. And neither choice is wrong. But both choices have consequences. Here's what you're actually mourning. The life you didn't live. The person you didn't become. The choices you didn't make. And here's the hard truth. You can mourn that forever. You can spend the rest of your life looking through bars at what could have been. Or you can make a different choice right now. Not the same choice. Not going back. But a new choice. A choice that acknowledges a cage but refuses to stay in it indefinitely. A choice that says, I lost years to this prison. I'm not losing anymore. Your mantra with a barred window. I am not a victim of my choices. I am the maker of my choices, and I can make new ones. The bars are real, but they are not permanent. Freedom has a cost, and I am calculating whether I'm willing to pay it. I have lost years to this cage, but I have not lost my ability to choose. Right now, in this moment, I choose to at least imagine freedom. And imagination is the first step toward making it real. Say this when you feel hopeless, when the bars feel permanent, when you can't imagine any way out. The barred window shows you what you're not living, but you decide whether that view becomes torture or motivation. So now you know which window you're looking through. You know what you've lost. You know it's not coming back. And here's where most people expect me to say something comforting. Something about how you can heal and move on and be okay. But that's not how irreversible loss works. Some things you don't heal from. Some things you just learn to carry. Some losses change you permanently. And the only choice you have is whether that change makes you bitter or deep. The clear window, the foggy window, the barred window, 3 different losses, 3 different kinds of can't go back. But they all share one truth. You're not the person you were before. And you never will be again. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unlose what you've lost. You can't uncage yourself and pretend the cage never existed. The loss is permanent. The change is forever. And fighting that reality is what keeps you stuck. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And that includes accepting yourself with the loss. Accepting yourself as someone who's seen too clearly and can never be innocent again. Accepting yourself as someone who's lost their direction and might wander for years. Accepting yourself as someone who traded freedom for security and now lives with that regret. That acceptance isn't giving up. It's reality. And reality is the only place where real change can happen. Here's what integration looks like. It looks like looking through your window, seeing what you've lost, and instead of pretending it's not there, you acknowledge it. Yes, I lost my innocence. The world showed me cruelty, and I can't forget it. And I'm going to live anyway. Yes, I lost my direction. I don't know who I am anymore. And I'm going to wander until I find out. Yes, I lost my freedom. I made choices that became a cage. And I'm going to decide whether breaking out is worth the cost. Integration means you stop trying to get back to before the loss, before the window, before you saw what you saw. You're not going back. That person doesn't exist anymore. That world doesn't exist anymore. That version of your life is gone. And the only path forward is through the reality of who you are now, with the loss, with the window, with the permanent change. That's not defeat. That's courage. That's real life. Your final assignment is this. Go look through an actual window. Right now. Stand there and look out. And as you look, ask yourself, what am I not seeing because I'm focused on what I've lost? What's here right now, in this moment, that I'm missing because I'm looking backward? What life is available to me today? With the loss, with the change, with the person I am now instead of the person I was. Because here's the thing about windows. Yes, they show you what's outside, what's lost, what you can't reach. But they also show you reflection. If you look carefully, you can see yourself, the person you are now, not the person you wish you were, not the person you used to be, the person looking through the window right now. And that person, the one with the loss, with the grief, with the permanent change, that person is actually more real than you've ever been, more honest, more alive, more capable of real depth. The window you chose isn't showing you what you lost. It's showing you who you became. The clear window made you a truth seer. The foggy window made you a seeker. The barred window made you a freedom fighter. And those identities, born from loss, are more powerful than whatever you were before. You just haven't learned to live them yet. You just haven't accepted that the loss is also a gift. Not a gift you wanted, but a gift nonetheless. So, which window are you looking through? Comment below. Not just a window. Tell me what you lost. Tell me what you're mourning. Tell me what you can't get back. Because we're all looking through windows. We've all lost something irreversible, and the only way through is together, is acknowledging that loss doesn't mean ending. It means changing. And change, even devastating change, is still life. Share this with someone who's trying to get back to who they were before, who's trying to recover what's gone, who's refusing to accept that some losses are permanent. They need to see their window. They need to name their loss. They need to stop running from the truth that they're different now, that they've changed, that they can't go back. And that's not tragedy. That's transformation. Subscribe if you want more brutal honesty, more depth psychology that doesn't promise easy healing, more content that respects your intelligence and your grief, because you deserve truth. You deserve acknowledgement that some things don't get better, they just get different. And different, once you stop fighting it, can actually be deeper, richer, more real. Your loss is permanent, but your life isn't over. You're just living it through a different window now. And once you stop trying to change a window, once you stop trying to go back, once you accept that this is your view now, something shifts. Not healing, not recovery, but integration. And integration is the only real freedom left when the thing you lost is gone forever. Welcome to the window. Welcome to the loss. Welcome to the person you are now. Stop looking back. Look through. Look at what's here. Look at who you become. And live that, not the life you lost, the life you have, through your window, with your loss, as yourself. Finally, devastatingly, courageously yourself.